Kane is one of the most unique characters in the history of WWE, created to have a worthy opponent for The Undertaker back during Taker's indestructible zombie phase, and inspired from the 90s and 80s slasher flick characters like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. If anyone is a fan of the Halloween or the Friday the 13th series, then watching Kane was like Michael Myers coming to life.
Oh, you gotta be kidding. No! Richmond is about to hit. Double choke slam from
7 feet tall, unstoppable Terminator with a strong desire for destruction, a psychologically unstable man known for his menacing persona, powerful wrestling style, and his use for a mask to conceal his identity. There was a time when getting the Big Red Machine just off his feet was considered a big feat, so winning a match against this monster was almost close to impossible during his early days. Unless you're The Undertaker on WrestleMania, then you're definitely losing. Over a span of almost more than 20 years, Kane has gone through multiple changes and even spawned a whole army of imposter Kanes. Let's take a look at every version and variant of Kane that ever existed and what made each of them special. In 2002, Kane returned with a new black and red attire, and the most noticeable and my personal favorite thing about his gimmick update was his half mask. This was the first time WWE fans had seen any part of Kane's face. Kane performed much more agile than before in the ring, and his new look allowed for the character to become more comedic by performing a variation of the Spinneroonie known as the Kane-a-Rooney, and coming up with one-liners like,
"Chicks, dig the mask."
This was also the time Kane was involved in the Katie Wick necrophilia storyline, which was weird at best. However, there's no denying that during this time Kane was the most over with the fans, and if any point in Kane's career he deserved to be a world champion, it should have happened during his 2002 half-mask Kane run. But the man with 3 H's had a different plan. Triple H kept on consistently getting the best of Kane and would defeat Kane in multiple world title matches, with one that led to Kane being unmasked and humiliated on Raw, effectively ending any momentum the Big Red Freak had gained at that time and burying him in the process. Unmasking Kane was terrifying at its best. The character is so unique that it can fit into any role and still keep things interesting. Despite being buried and forced to unmask by the man known with 3 H's, Kane's heel turn made him become the company's top villain at the time, and he did end up doing some horrific things, like setting Jim Ross on fire, tombstoning Linda McMahon, electrocuting one of his opponent's testicles, and forcefully marrying himself to Lita without her consent or approval. Although unmasked Kane was fun and scary to watch, and he did some of his best entrances during this time. The idea, however, behind wearing the mask was a bit weird. That almost for 6 years, the scars that Kane sustained during a fire set by Undertaker, his older brother, during their childhood, were not physical scars, instead they were emotional scars. And also the biggest thing that you can notice is that Kane lost his hair also when he unmasked. Maybe it was stress that led to it, because that was a choice since there is no physical damage to the body of Kane. Kane returned from a 4-month-long absence and surprised the fans when he had 2 masks, with the first one being a little strange, before taking it off to reveal a version of his old school mask. It looked like a return to form. After a few years of gimmicky storylines that stripped Kane of almost everything that made him successful to begin with, he was back in a new scary mask and ready to terrorize the wrestling world again. Cena was a month away from his big showdown against The Rock, so Kane started tormenting Cena to embrace the hate. This was Kane's way of motivating Cena to get the upper hand on The Rock, I guess. Since John was all about rise above the hate and Kane is all about fire rising from the ring posts,
It'll be your turn to bleed.
Kane's entire embrace the hate motto was great, but the problem is that WWE gave up on this version of Kane a little too quickly and moved him back to comedy. Kane, once again being able to adapt into any role, was able to give a memorable run with Daniel Bryan as Team Hell No. A lot of people hated Corporate Kane, but on the other side, it allowed Kane to do something he had never done before. Corporate Kane wore a suit and to me felt like the agents from the Matrix, trying to keep the authority in power. Kane ran the show to the heels faction's favor, usually led by Triple H and Stephanie McMahon, playing an unstable as always character that at one point suffered from a split personality, going back and forth between the demon and the corporate versions of Kane.
I'm Batman.
The run was polarizing to the fans, but it did help Kane have a relevant role in the upper mid-card again, feuding with the likes of Roman Reigns, CM Punk, and Daniel Bryan during this chapter of his career. Before Kane entered the WWE, he was first introduced to the world of wrestling by Jim Cornette in his promotion of Smoky Mountain Wrestling as the Unabomber. Jim Cornette is the guy that can be thanked for seeing the vision of Kane, as he was also a big fan of the Halloween franchise and took Michael Myers as the main inspiration for the character. Eventually, Jim set up a match between The Undertaker and the Unabomber, which led to The Undertaker going over to Vince to tell him about the future Big Red Machine. And once Kane entered the WWE, we all know that first he became an evil dentist, then the fake Diesel, and then he became the Big Red Monster. The worst gimmick of Kane's career came in September 1996. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, better known as Diesel and Razor Ramon, decided to leave WWE and jump ship to WCW for a more lucrative contract. This resulted in WWE suffering from a lack of popular superstars and greatly helped WCW beat its wrestling rival in the ratings war for many weeks. Desperate for some star power, Vince McMahon made the most unusual and baffling decision to recast the characters of Razor Ramon and Diesel, since WWE owned the rights to those gimmicks. And so it was the future Kane as we know him today ended up playing the role of fake Diesel. I wondered to myself, what was Kane thinking while playing this character? I'm sure his heart wasn't in it. It also showed that WWE thought that their fans are a bunch of idiots and underestimated their intelligence by a great deal. Even though future Kane perfectly embodied the character of Diesel, it was still bad. So bad that it kinda gave the vibes of those fake Hong Kong actors from the 70s that played the martial arts legend Bruce Lee after his sudden death. Passing it off as, so yeah, this is Bruce Lee, viewers believe it and like it, like, yeah, this is Diesel, and you better believe it, no questions asked. The man who played Kane for over 20 years is Mr. Glenn Jacobs. After fully retiring from being an active wrestler, Hall of Famer Kane ventured into politics and is currently mayor of Knox County in Tennessee. He was first elected mayor in 2018 and then got re-elected again in 2022 for the same position. This must mean the former Big Red Machine must be doing something right for the people of Knox County to love him so much. I have mentioned almost every Kane variant that belongs to our universe, but what about the variants from alternate universes? One by one, slowly some new or different, maybe fake or imposter Kanes have started showing up on the indie scene. First we got the Blue Kane, whose power is to rain snow in a wrestling arena and is most likely a Democratic voter.
Line from Democratic Kane there.
Cocaine, who like the Power Rangers, powers himself up by snorting a lot of cocaine, giving him Tony Montana-like powers.
Say hello to my little friend!
I once saw a yellow variant of Kane and I wondered to myself what his superpower would be. That his piss is most likely yellow? We have a female variant of Kane that popped up in the Japanese wrestling scene, and another female variant that I suspect suffers from type 2 diabetes called Candy Kane. Of course, with so much diversity going on, we have to be inclusive, so we have a gay version of Kane known as Gain. He emerged from the fires of gay hell to bring pain and suffering to the Rainbow Rumble. However, what I would like to see is a green variant of Kane, and no, not the DX green version of the original Kane. We are used to the OG Red Kane being angry all the time. I wonder, and I like to see what a laid-back, chill variant of Kane would act like. I really hope one day some indie promotion summons all the variants and versions of Kanes and sets them up for a battle royal match to decide which Kane is the best of them all. When it comes to gimmicks, the original is always the best. Kane first appeared at the Hell in a Cell match between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, only to rip the door off the cell and attack his brother. It was one of WWE's most iconic moments. For me, it was Kane that made wrestling fun and interesting to watch. I always loved characters like Michael Myers, Leatherface, or this character that I once saw in a Pakistani movie named The Slaughterhouse, whose weapon of choice is a mace that he swings over around his head. These characters are all built indestructible, have a height of almost 7 feet tall, wear masks, and you can hear their grunts from underneath their masks. Kane from 1997 to 2001 was exactly that. A slasher horror movie villain coming to life. 7 feet tall, imposing giant, never said a word, making his persona even more frightening. But other than his looks or his gimmick's characteristics, Kane is also a very athletic performer, especially his run from 2000 to 2002 is the time where Kane gave some of his best wrestling matches. His feud with Albert, where he delivered a standing dropkick, was amazing to watch. His clothesline from hell from top of a cage to X-Pac was a thing of beauty. And his 2001 Royal Rumble performance, where Kane just destroyed everyone that came in his path, was a visual spectacle. This was the ultimate version of Kane. He became a stellar heel, improved his wrestling abilities, created a very successful tag team with The Undertaker as Brothers of Destruction, and won most of his championship titles during his original OG run.